Mr. President, sports plays a big role in the development of this nation. It allows us to nurture talent and also to show good example, particularly to the youth, that it's possible to eke a living out of the talent that we have. The majority of our players, particularly in the men's club, belong to the National Police Service. And National Police Service has contributed immensely to sports in this country, whether it's in marathon, whether it's in field and track events, and now football. And in the national team, this club has probably the biggest number of team members that carry the Kenyan flag high. Now, to keep the club up to this point, the executive team has done a good job, and I must appreciate the sponsors for standing with us.
I'm also a proud Inspector General of the National Police Service for the works that the officers of the National Police Service have continued to do for this country, to ensure that our country have remained safe and secure despite the many challenges that we have been going through. And I want to assure them that we study with them, we support them, we want them to execute their mandate to ensure that our country remains safe from north to south, from east to the west. The Kenya country must remain the same. It is only the only country that we have here. That is our motherland. And I want our officers, and I want to assure them to continue in that trajectory and ensure that our country remains safe and secure.
Ministers present, PSS arrived in town, and everybody is talking about Kenya Police FC, Your Excellency. We decided to come up with a board for transparency and accountability before us. Please, board members, be upstanding of my CEO, Chris Mwanga. Women's team, the remarkable Kenya Police Bullets, successful.
Just a few remarks and our opening remarks. Why don't you give him a clap? As is.
It didn't happen overnight. Kama, I say a big thank you to you. This board has been steadfast in clarity of purpose, have been instrumental in shaping our identity and ambition. And your presence has been as laying the foundation for a sporting renaissance in Kenya. We are witnessing an era beginning. To our players, men and women, you are the face of a new...
Also to listen to you as you talk to these great men and women. And because a lot about the club has been said, and National Police Service has,
And not just for Police FC Club, but also for the other and the main.
Thank you very much, my PS, Dr. Raymond Omoro, Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Leading the team is the captain, Juliet Andibo. Leading the team is the captain, Juliet Andibo. Allow me, Your Excellency, to now introduce to you, led by the captain David Ochieng, the Kenya Police Football Club.
Sharing of equitable revenue, because, Honorable Speaker, it's about time that we get to a practical solution, Honorable Speaker, on these shareables. Even as we look at the national cake and how we are able to share across the country, Honorable Speaker, we also need to ask the county governments on what exactly are they able to reach their targets in terms of their own source revenues. And just like my colleague Honorable Uda has said, there are counties, Honorable Speaker, that really do not require such. Looking at Nairobi, for example, as a county, Honorable Speaker, the amount of money they collect as own source revenue is actually enough to even fund even up to 5 counties by themselves. They do not need any cake from the national government and from the exchequer. Those are the debates that we need to be having. Although, Honorable Speaker, looking at the formula that has been shared by the Honorable Atandi, there has been a progressive growth, very progressive growth on exactly what goes to the devolved units. And as I said earlier, Honorable Speaker, we started from about 320 or thereabout, or 340. Then it grew gradually to about 385. It stuck at us about 388. But now we are getting to about 415 billion shillings going to the devolved units. And this is a clear indication, Honorable Speaker, that progressively money is getting to the people. Money is moving from the central system and going to the villages, going to the county governments. But the question we need to ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker, is that, is this money really getting to the people like it ought to? Does it get to the right person in the villages? Does this money, Honorable Speaker, get to be used for the particular purpose that it's meant for in the Constitution, Honorable Speaker? Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. And going forward, this House needs to think on how to come up with a legislation that perhaps we replicate what happens with NGCDF to the county governments. That even as we send money to the county governments, that we need to come up with a formula, perhaps on how this money should be spent. It should go down to the people, Honorable Speaker, with a vote, a particular vote. Say, for example, we should say that 40% of, not more than 60% of the amount should be used for recurrent expenditure or even salaries. Because, Honorable Speaker, even as we talk about 415 billion going to the devolved units, about 65% of that amount, Honorable Speaker, is used for salaries, is used for the recurrent expenditure. And sometimes when you look at their budgets, when they pass their budgets, you will see a huge amount of money, Honorable Speaker, meant for, they say, governor's office, which you really can't tell what it does. So it's about time that this House thinks through such structures. If we are able to replicate the formula that is used on NGCDF to the county governments, then it will have a meaningful impact on the people. Because as it is currently constituted, Honorable Speaker, we send a blanket check to them, we give them the entire amount, 415 billion. They have their own source revenue. They use this money, Honorable Speaker, the way they want. About 70% of it, Honorable Speaker, does not get to impact people. And that is the question we need to have. Even as we talk about the formula, we should find a way to have this amount going down to the villages in a particular way with a specific vote. So that, Honorable Speaker, we don't have a situation where some local leaders or the MCAs or these people from, I mean, the people in the county government, Honorable Speaker, they do not turn governors as demigods, that they have got to worship them, to kneel before them so that they can get development. And that is why we are fast-tracking the question of the World Development Fund, so that even the county assemblies are made to be autonomous. They do not need to rely on the office of the governor to have the funds. So, Honorable Speaker, even as I support this, I challenge this House to think through a legislation that will take this money to the counties with a particular vote, that 20% is for salaries, 30% is for this particular purpose, so that it's replicated like the NGCDF. You don't just let it be as it is, that a governor decides on, there is no cap on what you can't spend beyond whatever amount so that it gets to reach the people, Honorable Speaker. That is the discussion that we should be having. And also challenge the governors and the county governments that we are still struggling, even as we continue growing gradually. Now today we are at 415. We are still struggling, and not just us, even Kenyans who are watching us are also struggling to identify what these billions do in the counties. When you also, what this amount, huge amount of money, is whether this huge amount of money is felt in the counties. We are still struggling to understand. But again, as I sit down, Honorable Speaker, we challenge the counties like Nairobi. These are questions that we also need to discuss. Capitals, cities, or big cities like Nairobi, Honorable Speaker, Mombasa, and several other counties, do they really need this amount from the exchequer? Do they need to share because the own source revenue from these counties is actually enough to even fund even 5 other counties. We need to ask ourselves that challenge, Honorable Speaker. I was looking at the budget, the Nairobi County government budget, Honorable Speaker, I realize it's actually triple what Rwanda passes as a national budget. You know, it's more than the budget of a whole country like Rwanda, the budget of Nairobi County as a city, Honorable Speaker. Looking at their own source revenue, Honorable Speaker, you will also realize it's too much, and it's quite enough, Honorable Speaker, that can be able to fund so many other county governments. So, as I support, Honorable Speaker, those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, whether these big cities really require this national cake, number one. Number two, how we'll be able to replicate the law on NGCDF, on the act on NGCDF to the county government, so that as we send money, it goes with a particular vote and nobody will be able to spend this and this. And also the question of pending bills, we also tell them that this particular vote is meant for pending bills, so that you don't need to form committees. Because what they do, Honorable Speaker, you know, immediately a new county government or a governor takes over, he forms a committee, you know, that is also paid by the government, by their very own county fund, to see and review whether the predecessor had genuine pending bills. Honorable Speaker, there should be a system that checks that. It shouldn't be like you're forming a committee, you are paying them. After this committee, it's again rechecked by another committee. Those are the challenges, Honorable Speaker, that we have as far as devolution is concerned. But with those very many remarks, I still support. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Osoro. Allow me, members, to acknowledge the following schools before we continue with the debate. In the public gallery, we have Katimoril Secondary School from Kapenguria in West Pokot. We have Kianjiuni Comprehensive School from Maragua in Murang'a County, and Thome Primary and Junior School from Gilgil, Nakuru. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome the students, their teachers, and those accompanying them to the House of Parliament. And I've been requested by the member for Gilgil to give her 1 minute to acknowledge and welcome the school from her constituency, and indeed all the others.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for indulging me, and I want to take this opportunity to welcome the students and the pupils in the gallery. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank you and also the clerk's office, because this session and this parliament specifically has been a very good training ground for our students and our children. And it is important because some of the schools you see here, especially that school called Thome, is all the way near Eburu Forest in Gilgil. So for them to have the opportunity to come and observe the proceedings of this house is quite a privilege, and we hope that we can continue with the same. And I welcome all the students, Mr. Speaker, to know that it can be them who are sitting here. Tomorrow, it will be their chance. But for today, they observe and learn. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mwashako. Member for Undanyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to put my comments on the fourth basis for sharing revenue to counties, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this fourth basis formula is an encouraging step in our country, where we are seeing that the Senate, starting at CRA, they've been able to capture some imagination of the country. Honorable Speaker, we know that resource distribution anywhere in the world is a very seriously contested issue. It is never easy to share resources, distribute resources to different corners of the country. And when we bequeathed ourselves the new constitution in 2010, Honorable Speaker, devolution was the main theme, the main item that made Kenyans support devolution, as it were. Honorable Speaker, this formula gives hope to small counties, including my county of Taita Taveta. Honorable Speaker, we are pleased and we are happy to support this formula because CRA and Senate have agreed to put aside money that will be shared among the small, so-called small counties, the 6 counties, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, these small counties have perennially had really issues because they are not able to raise enough resources to fund the development of specific needs of those counties, Honorable Speaker. Vihiga being one of them, West Pokot being one of them, Trakanithi, Lamu, Taita Taveta, to name but a few. Honorable Speaker, when we consider only population and geographical size and poverty, it does not capture the minimum resource requirement, minimum resource wallet that is required to run a county, Honorable Speaker. And therefore today when I see in this formula, there is an attempt to set aside 3 billion to be divided among the 12 counties. It gives me a lot of encouragement, Honorable Speaker. And to make even matters better, Honorable Speaker, when this House, I sit in the Budget Committee, Honorable Speaker, and we did agree that we should give counties more money, Honorable Speaker. And today we passed in this House that Division of Revenue Bill, and now that we give counties 415 billion shillings. And in this, Honorable Speaker, it means the small county, the 12 counties that are so-called small counties, Honorable Speaker, will be able to get a total of 4.46 billion to share amongst themselves, Honorable Speaker. And if you divide that by 12 counties, Honorable Speaker, you realize that each county will receive in excess of 370 billion Kenya shillings. I want to urge the governors from these small counties that indeed this money, the biggest challenge that we've had in counties like Taita Taveta, Honorable Speaker, is in the area of health care. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge my governor, I want to urge the members of the county assembly, I want to urge the executive, that when this money comes, because this money is coming as an affirmative fund to fund the development needs of our county. That 370 billion, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge my governor to make use of that money and fund the entire of it, fund the health budget, Honorable Speaker. Because our people are suffering. We do not have enough equipment in our hospitals. We don't have enough hospitals themselves. Like in Voi, Honorable Speaker, Taita Taveta, we have a level 4 hospital that would expect it to be improved to a real standard level 4 hospital, or even if possible, Honorable Speaker, to build a proper level 5 hospital in Taita Taveta, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I want to say the entire 370 billion, should all of it be channeled to health, to promote health, to build new facilities, to put equipment in those health facilities, and where possible to support the health workers to find so that they have everything that they need, their monies, that whatever monies they need to get that money, that 370 affirmative fund should go into that sector, Honorable Speaker. I want to say, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, that devolution should be protected. And I want to stand as an advocate of protecting devolution, but I want to also warn a few individuals, particularly, let me warn CRA. When the first formula for marginalization policy was made, it identified 14 counties to have been marginalized since independence. Today, Honorable Speaker, we expanded out of the 14 counties. Today we're talking about 33 counties being marginalized. We're talking about 107 constituencies being marginalized. And therefore, the marginalization money that was to go to 14 counties, it's been divided into very small amounts, and therefore does not do any meaningful activity, Honorable Speaker. I want to warn and say, the 12 counties that have been identified in this fourth basis of sharing revenue to counties, there should not be any dilution. There should never be an attempt to expand from 12 to any number, because we know that these 12 counties require these resources, they require this money, so that then they can grow in the same manner that as the other big counties are growing, Honorable Speaker. I want to conclude, Honorable Speaker, by saying I support this bill, I support this formula, and therefore, Honorable Speaker, we should always support the small counties to get more funding, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
It is very easy to know the members eyeing the seat of the governor in future. And we can easily listen to them. The Honorable Gideon Ochanda, the MP for Bondo.
Mr. Speaker, eyeing the seat for governorship, I think I don't want to get in those troubles too early. Mr. Speaker, as I look forward to contributing properly to this motion, I want to remind ourselves and the entire House of a number of things. Definitely there has to be a formula in terms of how we place resources horizontally. But besides that, in as much as the chair has brought us what the Senate has looked at, I want to believe and I want to say that there are many other things that are not yet looked at properly, which are factors that really need to be looked at. Number one are the constitutional considerations that we have. There are provisions in the Constitution in Article 203, and if you allow me to read one or two of them, Chair, is that consideration needs to be looked at in, for example, if you look at the factors that are given in the Constitution in Article 203, of specific concern is, for example, the need to ensure that county governments are able to perform the functions that are allocated to them. I think this is a factor that when we are looking at placement of revenue to counties, who is it that has ascertained? Who is it that has really computed in terms of what is it that the counties are supposed to be doing, their functions, the kind of functions that are already transferred, the value of those functions before we place resources in them. The other important factor that the Constitution provides that has not been looked at is the issue of the fiscal capacity and efficiency of the county governments. Again,